Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Kawegazi Menstrual Health Workshop. We are Ubuntu NPO. My name is Amkela Makhanya, the founding executive director of Ubuntu NPO. And in partnership, we are hosting this workshop with Ubuntu Festival. We find it important that we should also have our voices heard when it comes to advocating for menstrual health. Ubuntu Festival, their whole notion is centered around human rights. So I was just like, no, we also have a unit of menstrual health and advocating for menstrual health and trying to end period poverty. It is a human right for a girl child to have access to menstrual products and to be exposed to menstrual health. So why are we not part of the platform? So I reached out and I said, guys, you're doing a wonderful job, but can we just also be part of it and just share our experience and our professional knowledge of menstrual health and just our experience in terms of how we're trying to combat menstrual health and trying to end period poverty. So without further ado, please may I kindly welcome our panel. We have Kayelin Tiggs, we have Karo, we have Dr. Sibu, we have Philani. If you don't mind, can you guys actually just introduce yourselves so we can just hear the different voices from all corners of the world?
Sure, I could go first. So hello, everyone. My name is Kayelin Tiggs. I am addressing menstrual equity in the United States, specifically in the state of Ohio. I am a participatory action researcher, and that just means that the communities in which I'm studying are actively a part of the research process. And so I've been addressing menstrual equity, particularly, excuse me, my brain is not working. It's 5:30 a.m. here in the United States. So I've been addressing menstrual equity, particularly in the realm of incarceration. And my goal is to address period poverty and create menstrual equity in spaces that are typically ignored. Here in the US, there's been a lot of attention to period poverty and working towards achieving menstrual equity and menstrual justice in the context of schools. And I wanted to be sure that women from all sectors of society are able to access menstrual products. And so I'm looking forward to talking with all of you, and I'm looking forward to talking more about my work here in the US. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Maybe I'll go next. So my name is Philani Zama, and where do I even start? So I run three organizations. One is for the girl child transitioning out of care. As you would know in South Africa, when you get to the age of 18, actually not just in South Africa, when you get to the age of 18, you have to leave the children's homes. So I've always been around the girl child and been for women at large. And then the second organization that I run is it has 70 residents that are transitioning out of, not transitioning, sorry, that are intellectually disabled. So they actually live on site and we make sure that they are included in the daily norm of life. And then I run also Cheshire homes, which we deal with people that are disabled from the neck down. So they're on wheelchairs. So I guess I'm on this panel because I'm also working with an amazing organization called the Menstruation Foundation. So what we do there is that we provide sanitary products to the girl child throughout South Africa. We have what we call a sanitary pad dispenser, where we get corporates to actually fund it, and it also comes with a year's supply of pads because sustainability is the key part. And so we've got just over 200 dispensers throughout South Africa, including in Lesotho at the UN. And yeah, so it's quite important to us at the Menstruation Foundation that sanitary pads land up being free. Hence, we're moving towards starting a sanitary pad factory in South Africa that is run by the NPO, because then we disturb the market, which eventually will force these products to become free. So that's me.
I think I'll go next. My name is Karo. I'm the founder of Sanitary for Nigerian girls. I'm also a founding member of the Feminist Coalition, and I run a book truck project, which is a project that starts little libraries. It's called Little Libraries everywhere. So we put little libraries in orphanages, in correctional centers, in juvenile centers, and all of those things, just to give people access to books early on in life. With Sanitary Aid Initiative, I think we're like 7 years old now, but what we do is similar to what Philani does. We distribute sanitary products to low-income homes, to girls in secondary schools, to people in internally displaced camps, like people that have been displaced by Boko Haram. And we've been here for like 7 years. So we have distributed over 50,000 pads so far. But what is most important is the menstrual hygiene education that we do as well. And he said it also things that I think we're currently going into having period dispensers. So we're putting period dispensers in schools, but also in like restaurants, because we're using that as a fundraising mechanism to have people, you know, when you're in a club or somewhere and you go into the toilet and that day you're able to get a free pad that you needed, you'll be like, where did this come from? And then you want to support it. So we are very big on sustainability. We partner with a women-led organization that locally makes reusable pads. So 80-90% of the pads that we use are locally made in Nigeria by these women. And that organization also empowers women in prisons, women in IDP camps, and just keeps it going. So our really major thing in Sanitary Aid Initiative is sustainability. And we're very big on ensuring that we preach sustainability not only for people who have low income, but also for everyone. So it's not because there's period poverty that people should use sustainable options or that should think sustainability. Even people who have access need to continue to think about sustainability. So I believe that that's why I'm here today to talk about period poverty, sustainability, and the importance of organizations like ours that are trying to forward these conversations. Thank you.
Oh, there we go.
The test. Oh, okay, good.
Now we can hear you.
Sorry
Good.
about that. Sorry about that. I'm Sibu. I'm a gynecologist by profession. So obviously I deal with a lot of women's health issues relating to periods as well. So other than like my consultation encounters, I also do a lot of other beyond the consultation room projects where I reach out to women. I do a lot of health education. I recently started or launched a platform, Soft Landing for Women, where I do a lot of like health education, medical education, because a lot of the issues and the stigmas start from misinformation. So I use the knowledge I have to educate people, to bring it to different types of communities. And I love what Karo said as well about not just reaching out to sort of low income, but it's like just women in general, because misinformation is happening across, you know, different sort of sectors or the different types of communities. So just to bring the correct type of information so that people also make informed decisions on what products they choose to use, and just to remove the stigma around the period as well. Yeah, so I get involved with different projects and I do collaborations. That's how I got involved with Ubuntu as well. Yeah, and it's just to spread the correct type of message and to make a difference. Because there's things that I can do with my patients one-on-one, but there's so much more that is needed in our communities. So I get involved with like-minded projects or like-minded organizations to spread the correct message. And as I say, I've started my own platform as well, which is where it doesn't necessarily only deal with menstrual products or menstruation, but it's just about womanhood in general. but of course, the period is a big part of womanhood because it spans through, quite a large chunk of the woman's life. So that's my involvement with women's health and the period.
Thank you for the introductions. I think I forgot to introduce myself, actually. My name is Amkela Makhanya. I'm a founding executive director of Ubuntu NPO. Ubuntu NPO is based in Durban. We've been running for 6 years. This year is our 6th year. And we have 3 focal points. One of them is menstrual health and raising awareness about menstrual health. Another one is education, and another one is sports. But today we're just focusing on the pillar of menstrual health. We started this journey in 2019 when we heard that there are girls literally missing school because they don't have sanitary pads. So depending on a girl's cycle, a period is between 5 to 7 days. So it was very much bizarre to us to know that there are girls in the area of Adam's Mission in Durban in the South Coast that are missing school just because they don't have access to sanitary pads or they cannot afford sanitary pads. So we started the menstrual health journey just by launching a project called a 1-week sanitary pad drive, where in 7 days we were able to collect more than 300 pads to donate to 1 school. So ever since then, we've never looked back. We've been consistent. We've been doing pad drives in Durban and in Johannesburg. And I think we're doing a pretty good job. Now we're starting to introduce menstrual cups. We are going to be launching a framework called Masjale, which basically means that whatever that we're doing within our organization throughout the 3 pillars, we are planting a seed for us to be sustainable. So for example, if we're going to be donating sanitary pads or menstrual cups or anything to do within the menstrual health pillar, it needs to become sustainable. So we're lucky enough to know Philani. We're lucky enough to have worked with Menstruation Foundation in the past. So now we're going to be starting to be in conversation in terms of how can we actually have the dispensers in the schools that we've adopted, because we have 6 adopted schools. So we know that for a year, all the girls have supply of sanitary pads. We're also thinking of diving more into menstrual cups. We've donated more than 250, if I'm not mistaken. So now if we go into the menstrual cup avenue, we need to, there's a lot of stigma and barriers that we need to cut down within our culture. And also there's an issue with water. So the schools that we have adopted, they don't have water most of the time. So now we have to figure out a way that if we do donate menstrual cups, how do we overcome the barrier of water? So most people would say that we need to get a borehole, but a borehole is way too pricey for us. But maybe you never know. We might be in talks with an organization that would like to fund us in the near future. But those are all the things that we are looking into in our menstrual health pillar. And with that being said, my first question was actually going to be what inspired all of us to be advocates of menstrual health. But I think I don't want to bite off more than I can chew, and I don't want to answer for everybody, but I think we all just have a common ground of passion. We're just passionate about helping the girl child and ensuring that the girl child is educated and is not faced with the barrier of not having access or a sanitary pad for them to not be educated. We're trying to empower the girl child by saying, hey, here's a sanitary pad, go to school, get your education, and we're paving a way for you and your bright future. But maybe I can give the panelists an opportunity to share why exactly, what inspired them to be on this platform of advocating for menstrual health?
Sure, I can go first. I think you hit the nail on the head there. We all want to see women succeed. And the fact that no matter who you are, if you are a woman anywhere on this planet, you will experience menstruation unless you are experiencing some type of medical issue. And for me, it doesn't matter where a woman comes from. It's a, something that we can all get get behind. It's a common experience. And so for me, you don't have to walk in the same shoes as another woman to be able to empathize with her experience of menstruation. And I work with women and girls of all ages. And here in the United States, like I said, I work primarily in the realm of incarceration, and we will have girls who will experience menstruation and her period for the first time behind bars. Unfortunately, the United States has the highest level of incarcerated persons in the world. And so we have juveniles, young girls who are behind bars who will experience their menstrual cycle for the first time with no education around how to manage it, which creates health and safety concerns, not just for the girl, but for everyone around her. And so I think that being a woman, we can all empathize with the experience of menstruation. And like it has been said, there's so much stigma around it, and the stigma doesn't just stop at menstruation. It attacks our womanhood. It attacks our abilities as women to be able to function in this world because of the perception of how the menstrual cycle seems to affect us. And so just breaking those stereotypes and reframing the way that we understand the menstrual cycle and its role in our lives is going to be really important in this conversation and really important moving forward when addressing issues related to menstrual equity. So for me, it's about that connection. It's about the fact that we're all women, and it's about the fact that we need to break that stigma.
I think what I'm about to say, I guess, says a lot also, being that I'm possibly the only man on this panel. For us, you know, you look at the co-founders of the Menstruation Foundation, the guys, it's Stephen Gesty and Maurice Besson. And for us, so how I got into the space, because I was all about necessarily the girl child transition out of care. But when I started getting sanitary pads directly to my specific organization, about 300,000 as a donation yearly from Korea. I obviously didn't know what to do with all of these, but I thought to myself, I'm surely we can create partnerships with these, and that's how I made the Menstruation Foundation. But going back to, I think, why we do this, and why we pride ourselves, being obviously that it's led by men, even though a majority of our directors within the organization are women, because at the same time, women necessarily don't need to be saved. We very much understand that. They can save themselves. They require the right environment to excel in whoever they are. We know, as David Attenborough said, the future of just how climate control is moving, and how how the earth will survive is if the girl child stays in school. And how do you do that? Make sure that they have sanitary pads and. But the biggest thing is that the stigma around the menstrual cycle, because of men, not because of women. I don't think any woman woke up one day and said, listen, periods are disgusting and all of that. It was a man somewhere who said, actually, I cannot be associated with yourself because you're going through this. And I think that's why for us, we say to ourselves, the problem actually must start with us, readdressing us as men, and making periods beautiful for what it is. Like we have a saying within the organization that we all come from a bleeding vagina. And it boggles most men, especially in like townships and like in really rural areas, that other guys can speak like that. But we being honest to say, try having a baby without a period. Period is a beautiful thing that creates life. And so we just really wanted to change the narrative and change how men look at periods. But also another thing, since we created the dispenser thing, for us was more based on the products are being sold. We've seen it instead of them being for free. And so that was also another reason why we needed to get into the space, to say we need to create solutions where the user end, it becomes free and it literally goes to where it should be, and not necessarily resold for 10 Rand and. But I think the biggest call why we are in this is to change our language as men, to make periods, for lack of a better word, cool. And just so that most men, most young boys also understand that without a period, there's no life.
I'm just going off what what's been said. I think there's value. I think there's value in thinking about how we got here as life form and how most people got to this world after somebody missed a period, you know. But why we do what we do is similar to everyone else. I think when you work in the nonprofit area, or when you decide that you want to make impact in your world, you start to see how all of our social issues are intertwined with reproductive issues, are intertwined with class issues, intertwined with capitalism, and all of these things come together. So when I started, I used to volunteer to teach little kids, and then found out that prices of pads had gone up. I was like, okay, there's a gap in education, not just school education, but menstrual education. And then there's a gap in access to products. There's a gap in knowing what's a myth and what is true. Some of these myths are keeping girls and women from speaking about the issues they go through menstruation. There's cultural taboos, which also mean that certain people don't want to say they've had their periods, because if they start their periods, it means they're ready for early marriage. So all of these things are leading to a gap in the society and to a breakdown of society as we know it, or just a sustained thing that's always happened from time. So when we started from the angle of people don't have products, we want to buy them products, and we're buying products. And then we went back and said, yes, I gave girls pads this month, disposable pads. What are they going to use next month? So we started to think about sustainability. And then when we started to think about sustainability, we're like, yeah, we'll do reusable pads. We solved the issue. You know, it's fine. Everybody gets a reusable pad. They can wash it. And then you find out in some camps, there's no running water. So you are leading them back to another issue that they did not have in the first place when they're using disposable pads. Or like something that happened when we just started. I remember that we tried to donate pads to a camp, and the camp director had called and said, I don't want your pads. And it was when I just started, so my head was hot. I was like, we're trying to help these people. Why would you not want the pads, you know? And after coming down, I called the guy and said, what's the problem? Why do you not want the pads? I've heard that women and the girls don't have pads. And he says, if you give us pads, we don't have bins. And they're going to start disposing it everywhere. And this camp has women and men and children. And we just don't want another additional problem. Right now, they use their clothes and we don't have to see all of that. So it's led to that reorientation, speaking to the men and saying, this is not something that is disgusting. How do you support the women around you during a time like this? And then also led to us partnering with a waste organization saying, can you come and pick up their waste once a month? Can we buy you baskets? And then if we buy you very cheap baskets, does this solve the problem? Will you take the pads now? And that's how we're able to enter that community. So as much as it's come from a place of wanting to help and support, there's also a lot of learning to do along the way to know where we stand and what we can do, and also adjusting, not just coming from we want to save people, but more of how do we collaborate within community? How do we co-produce solutions for the communities that we go to? And furthermore, when we co-produce solutions, how flexible are we in understanding that we do not understand everything about this, and that sometimes this is not what the community needs? Girls are dropping out of school. Are they dropping out of school because they don't have pads, or is there something else happening in the school? Is there sexual abuse? Is there, physical discipline and things like that? And how do we come in? What other organizations exist? So I always like coming on a panel like this to see what other people are doing and to see other organizations that we can collaborate with and continue to expand our work. So it's not just to be narrow-minded or just to be like, this is what I want to do and this is what I will do forever, but to be open-minded to, at the core, what we want to do is to improve the lives around us, and what are the ways that we can continue to improve ourselves so that we can improve the lives around us. Thank you.
So for me, it was, seeing different issues that women bring with them when they come, to seek help. In a public hospital, you don't have the luxury of leaving the room and allowing the woman to undress when you need to assess her. So you, in the same room, she's undressing right in front of you, and you see that she's using a cloth, she's using toilet paper or something else that is not appropriate because she cannot afford buying pads or buying any other menstrual product. So seeing those sort of things is what invoked a passion in me, and seeing women as well just hating the period, hating themselves every month for going through menstruation. I think I was just blessed to, I don't know, my attitude towards the period has always been okay, positive, I've never really even had like any menstrual issues. But I think I just noticed that a lot of people are so negative towards a period. They don't even understand the cycle and the benefits outside of just the 5 to 7 days. I know it's a generalization to say it's 5 to 7 days, because for some people there are so many other things that come with the period that are negative. But I mean, there's still ways of dealing with even those negative issues that can come with periods. So for me, it just came from that point of just helping people to just navigate their feelings and their understanding about the period, and helping people understand that, I mean, if you're gonna have a period for at least like from age 12 to 45, that's like 30 something years of your life. So let's find ways of changing our attitudes, changing the narrative of how we feel about our periods, and because they're here to stay. And it's not like there's a switch that we turn on to say, okay, now I want to have my period. Now I want it to stop. It's nature. It's a physiological process that we have no control over. So let's find ways of changing our attitudes, changing our mindset, and our outlook to the period. And then we start introducing the different types of, period products that, we can use, that we can have access to, and finding ways of making them accessible to different types of communities as well, to help people. Because obviously, if you don't have the correct type of menstrual product, you're not going to enjoy your period. So let's make it a process that is livable with, at least, because it's going to be for quite a good period of your productive life. My sister, for example, was so upset with me. I've got 2 girls, and my big daughter is now 17 years old. And so when she had her period for the first time, I said to her, congratulations. And my sister was like, what? Why would you even, say that to a girl? Why are you lying to her? Congratulations is for something that's good. And I'm like, but a period is good because it tells us that the body is working the way it's supposed to work. So, let's start her off with a positive mentality towards it, and which is what I generally do as well. Like I said, I educate women and girls about their bodies and their period as well. So that's the message we're trying to drive, to say, let's be positive. Let's look at the positives more than the negatives, and let's deal with the negatives as well, so that, you know, the whole process is not as bad as all that. Yeah, so I think that was my motivation, to change people's mindsets and to also find so much good which is there about our bodies and the actual menstrual cycle and the whole cycle, not just focusing on the 5 to 7 days where we have the period. Yeah.
From what I'm picking up in our discussion, and I'm actually thinking to myself that I might just go off script with my questions, because I feel like our discussion is going another route. But what I'm realizing is that we have this passion, but this passion is like opening up a can of worms because of particular barriers that we face in our respective communities that we're trying to help. Psychologically, education-wise, resources in terms of water-wise, and obviously financially. And I would like to know, how can we, I'm trying to think of the vocabulary, but how can we streamline everything and say, okay, if we are an organization and we want to donate menstrual products, whether it's sanitary pads or menstrual cups or reusable sanitary pads, then what is the next step? How do we eradicate the barriers? Because I feel like now we're also starting to get a feel of, we need to have that psychological counseling in terms of, because you're a girl, this is what your body is going through. Not even psychological. I think I can just use the medical umbrella in terms of, okay, you're a girl, you're starting your period, this is what your body is going through. Since your body is going through this, you're going to need this product. In order for you to have this product, this is how you need to maintain yourself. If you are a girl in the rural area, that's our target audience, you're probably going to be facing particular rules and regulations from your culture, saying that you can't use this product, but you can use this product. In order for you to now use that particular product, you need to rinse it out and sterilize it, but you don't have water. So how can we streamline and try to remove these barriers and just make it like a seamless flow when we go to our target audience and say, this is what we come with, here's the solution, and here's how to maintain the solution?
So I will say that this is a very nuanced issue, like it has been pointed out already. And here in the United States, we are facing a major issue with policy. And so in parallel to providing products and providing education, we are holding, at least in the state of Ohio, we are working to hold our government accountable for this. Again, I primarily work in the realm of incarceration, but we are addressing this in homeless shelters. We are addressing this in schools. We are addressing menstrual equity and poor access amongst refugee communities. And most recently, our military. So women are joining the military at 18 years old and having to bring 6 months worth of their own products to basic training. And a lot of women in the United States that go into the military are going to the military because they have grown up in poverty. And in the United States, the military offers education and other opportunities in which a lot of girls don't grow up with. So the military is an opportunity for girls to really enhance the quality of their life. But we're talking about barriers, and it's like, I'm wanting to go, join the United States military, and I have to bring my own products and bring 6 months worth of products with me. And we don't see how this is an issue, and a lot of it is policy. Like the gentleman stated before, we have a lot of men who are in power and are in these positions to make policy and who are making decisions that affect women's lives. And so in the United States, we are addressing the issue of sustainability by addressing policy. So in parallel to providing products and collaborating with different organizations who are supplying products, we are making sure that we are creating laws and putting forth legislation that holds our government accountable. In the state of New York, one of the state representatives just introduced a federal law that would create access to menstrual equity in all spaces across the United States. Now, that piece of legislation has been sitting for about 4 years, but I mean, it addresses schools, it addresses homeless shelters, it addresses prisons. The language is basic, but it would be the first time in the history of the United States where this language was ever introduced and this topic is ever prioritized, but we are starting to see it. And so I'm not exactly sure what's going on in South Africa, but it's, I think, crucial that in parallel to supplying products and creating sustainability and through that measure, that you also address your government and put pressure on the people who are creating policy for your country, for your cities. So our governments work at a local level, right? We have state representatives, we have even city-wise, we have city councils. And so writing up your own legislation, presenting it to city council, presenting it to your state legislation, and then all the way down to a national level. So I would encourage all of you to put your resources together, potentially create some type of research project where you collect the data and present it to your government. If South Africa is a democratic country, then they have an obligation, right, as elected officials to address this issue. And I think that there has to be a more emphasis on using policy and using your elected officials to address this issue. So that's my piece.
I think I totally agree with Kayelin. I got that correct. And I agree from a space. I know the whole reason we exist as NPOs, it's certain policies that have been necessarily not gone for the people, but I feel like sometimes, you know, policies are made, but they don't evolve with just how society is moving. So I totally agree with the whole, for us not to exist, policies need to be changed. I mean, I look at the girl child in terms of that old Graceland, which is the one transitioning out of care. It's purely because there's a policy that says we do not necessarily take you through after you turn 18, we consider an adult. But my biggest question is, how are you an adult when you don't have parents and you just turned 18? So yes, I think the biggest problem, which is what we're also trying to address, but we knew one thing as the Menstruation Foundation is that rewriting policy or just getting policy redone takes sometimes years and a lot of money, like a lot. And because there's so much research that goes into it. But we knew that we had to do something in the process. And that's why we even pushed to get our own factory started, because we're hoping we can start it later on this year, because if we can flush the market with so much free pads, companies that are having profits around pads won't necessarily find the market for it, because pads are there. And I'm saying pads are there. There are people who can afford, but why should they even be buying? Because it's something that should be just there. I never tend to like this saying around the fact that we have free condoms, so wine pads aren't free. There is an agreement and an alignment to that, but also there's free condoms because there was at some point a crisis around HIV, so the one doesn't kick out the other, at some point. But I do know by the time government changes policy, we need to have things in place to actually make sure that these products do get to people. Hence, for us, it was the dispenser to say, by the time government says, no, it's fine, it can be free, then we will run the factory to supply it throughout South Africa. And government will have to pay for those products through, I guess, to us to make them. And then, but the dispensers will be there in place as a way of funneling through the free products to people. So yes, but the biggest point that Kayelin touched on that I loved was the fact that for us to cease to exist as non-profit organizations that are doing the work that we're doing, policy does need to change.
Yeah, so I think it's just like we all said generally, but I think across communities we have things that are particular to our community, and not even within the community we have subsects of things that are particular within that community. So my country is Nigeria, and we have over 800 languages, various cultures, various beliefs, various everything is so different community to community. Across states where we approach each state differently, each community differently because of their unique needs. So while policy is great in, I'd say, developing democracies or developing countries, or countries where it's not like popular practice, where non-profits and the government are aligned. So we do a lot of trying to get policies in place. It's really hard work. We've existed for over 7 years, so we've been trying to get at least one state to say, I'm going to start to give free sanitary pads, but that's not something that we have been able to do. But another thing we've been able to do is make sure that our advocacy is very visible, and that we continue to partner with other organizations that do similar work, so that our work is like a little more widespread, and that we are constantly learning the best ways to influence the law. Because again, if our beliefs or if our advocacy is adopted by the government, we'll have a wider spread of the period poverty work being to reach more people if the government really is on our side. But we haven't been able to do that. So what we just try to do is continue to put pressure on government organizations, but also continue to do the work that we do to make sure we have the buy-in of the people. Because at some point, it's like what's happened in Scotland, and it's happened in Kenya, I believe, as well. It came from the people, and then the government saw the importance of it and began to implement policies that are now adopted across the country. So that's what we're doing. But it cannot be overemphasized how much having the buy-in of the government is to the work that we do.
Yeah, I think I agree with everyone on what everyone's commented on regarding the policy changes that we need. And over and above that, I think what I'd like to add is probably involving more women as policymakers as well, because I think we've generally lived in a world where a lot of the policies have been set by men who don't experience the period, who don't experience the whole menstrual cycle and the factors that also come in with it. So involving more women, will obviously make it more practical in terms of the solutions and addressing the challenges that people face regarding menstrual products access and which ones to use and what the difference is, because we appreciate, projects like what Philani and his organization are doing. We appreciate that, and I think it really does begin with changing the mindset of men as well, but also involving women themselves who actually go through the period will make a difference. And also just on a sort of smaller scale, making differences in every sphere of our lives, in our communities. We come from homes where we have uncles, we have brothers, we have sons. So changing their mindset and their attitudes towards the period, because you don't know where your uncle's going to end up, you don't know where your son's going to end up. And so just educating people at every single level will make an impact in our society. And so when Amkela asked the question, how can we streamline, our work such that, it fits in every community and it just, addresses all the issues. I think a lot of the things that have to do with women, it's very difficult to just streamline it because it will, there will be different challenges in every community. So yes, you'll have that framework of this is what we're planning to do, but every community will determine their own needs as you roll out whatever project you are bringing to sort of make life easy for the community. So it's the community that determines how everything is going to go, basically. And then you streamline it according to the community's needs. And you sort of let them lead the project, let the community themselves own the project and lead it in a way that works for them while you're bringing the resources that you have in terms of education, in terms of bringing the actual products as well. And yeah, we start the building blocks in our families and then we go broader with the policy making and policy influencing.
I agree. I feel like it's everyone's responsibility at this point. I don't think there's, yes.
Sorry to cut you off. Karo actually has to leave us because she has a flight to catch. She's in Ireland and she's going back to London now. But I just wanted to say, Karo, before you leave, maybe you can just share with our viewers that will be watching this recording, how could they support you and support your organization, and how can they reach out?
Okay, thank you. So, sorry that I have to go, but generally, I think organizations like ours, the most important way to support us is to spread the word and to do what you can do within your own community. Aside that, you can always check Sanitary Aid's website, sanitaryaidng.com, and you can become a donor, you can become a frequent donor, you can become a volunteer, you can help us share our posts, you can send us information, because a lot of the things that we have done, like a lot of states that we've gone to, we've got a request from those places to say, we have this issue, can you come in and speak to the girls? And that has remained one of the pillars of the work that something that I've learned across along my journey. When I worked in asylum, before I worked in asylum, I used to think we have the solution, we go to, and which goes back to everything that we've spoken about today. It's like we have the solution, we go to the community and we give them the solution. Now I think we need to co-produce whatever solutions we are having with the people in the community. So we need to go to the community and say, what is the problem? What are your ways of solving it? Have you tried this way? Or what do you think? What is applicable to you and how can we co-produce? And that is where we are as an organization, Sanitary Aid, and we are all about sustainability, co-production, and menstrual hygiene and solving period poverty in the ways that we can. So please check our website. All of our pages are sanitaryaidng.com. And I'll really be looking forward to hearing from you. I've learned so much. So thank you so much, every panelist, for everything that you've shared. I've picked up a few things. So you'll see over the next few months, say, yeah, that sounds familiar. Yes, because I really learned a lot from this panel, and I believe that we have a lot to apply in the work that we do in Nigeria. And I'm sure that we will find ways to continue to collaborate between Nigeria, South Africa, the US, and everywhere that women are everywhere. So there's always something that we can do together to improve our lives. So thank you. Thank you so much for having me as well.
Thank you for joining us. Have a safe flight.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. To continue, I think education is one of the tools that we're going to be using moving forward. Or one of the frameworks, should I say, rather. We just need to educate in our respective communities. So whether it's here in South Africa, whether it's in Nigeria, whether it's in the United States, we just need to educate.
While we wait for her, I think I can maybe talk a bit about the importance of, education in our communities. And
Thank you.
it will start obviously even, before, in prepubertal girls, that we start to educate them about what they to expect in terms of the physiology, in terms of the changes that will happen in their bodies, and the different types of products that are available and what will work for them in their different communities. And obviously, if we make it accessible, affordability is not an issue. But right now, in our different communities, that is one of the issues. Even when you break it down to people in terms of, for example, when you talk about the menstrual cup and its sustainability in the sort of long term, when people look at how much it costs, it's difficult for them to access it at this point. Even if it's like 120, because you do get some that go as cheap as that. And when you think about it, you need more than one cup at a time, because you need one that you're wearing, you need one that if you need to change into another one, so you need to have at least three. So that's 360. I'm just making an example. So for some people, that's still an issue to even access it, although it's cheap and it's like a once-off type of payment. And the maintenance, like we spoke about as well, of the hygiene that goes in terms of sterilizing and cleaning it. And so just to make it more accessible, obviously will make it so much more easier. And it does sort of become the cheaper option. And then like we said, we need to deal with the stigmas that are associated now with people being concerned about virginity testing, and we have to respect the communities while we're educating them as well, and the belief systems we need to take into consideration and while we educate them as well. So yeah, like you said, Amkela, it's like we open a can of worms, we solve one problem and it opens up to another. But I think, that's the life of a woman anyway. It's never sort of, plain sailing. There will be this issue, that comes along the way. And it's just about us continuing as far as we can go, as much as we can, to make a difference and to make a change.
Apologies for cutting out. Thank you for taking over, Dr. Sibu. But I heard you a bit. You were speaking about the educational perspective and the virginity testing, which wants me to tap into menstrual products. Do you think it's wise for us to introduce the menstrual cup in the African culture, in the African schools? I have a bit of an issue because we have primary schools and high schools. Primary schools, I feel like our girls are not mature enough to be using the cup just as yet. But in high schools, the girls are scared to use the cup, or they say that they're scared for it to break their virginity, or they say bazotine kaya, which means what are they going to say at home when I use the cup and not the pad? So I don't know how to maneuver around it, because the cup is obviously one of the sustainable routes, since a girl can use it up to between a year and 2 years. So please may you just share your medical perspective on the menstrual cup.
Yeah, so partly it's what, I already mentioned, that it is quite it's a sustainable option when you look at the different options that we have, and when you look at the side effects or the adverse effects that can happen, for example, with the tampon, which is another one of the menstrual products that, you know, when you look at girls who do sport, for example, they would often go for the tampon rather than the pad, because if they're swimming, for example, then it's more practical. But the tampon has, although it's not a common occurrence, but there is that chance that a girl can get toxic shock syndrome from using a tampon. So when you look at the two different options, the cup becomes a better option. And when you look at longevity as well, because you can use a cup for up to 10 years and you can use it for longer. You can use it for 12 hours at a time, depending on your flow, of course. And they come in different sizes as well, so which accommodates, the small will accommodate the sort of the teenage girl. And then the medium will accommodate the girl who's like above 19 years, and the large will generally be a woman who's probably given birth. Those are just guidelines, by the way, so you obviously try and test so that you know which one will work for you, but the sort of guidelines are that's how you choose a size for the cup. And the flow is what's also going to determine how often you need to change it and how many cups you actually need. But on average, a woman will need at least to have 3 cups. And like I made the example of, if, say, for example, the cup costs 120, and that's the sort of, I think the cheapest I've heard a cup can be. I'm not sure if it can go any lower than that. So if you need at least 3 cups, that's 360, which in some communities is still not accessible. And looking at the other parts of sterilizing it, the water access and where you store it, you still need to have a container as well where you're going to store it, where it's going to be somewhat sterile. So all of those factors come into play, and then there's the community factors where people will be concerned with the fact that if you're using a cup, it's taking away the girl's virginity, because you have to go through the hymen, so to speak, which when I educate communities, I always say that, you know, our girls have become so active these days in terms of sport, in terms of what they do, that the hymen can break even without anyone introducing a tampon or a menstrual cup, because of the physical activity that they are exposed to, the types of physical activity they're exposed to, it can break. So I think we need to educate our communities, like I said, while we respect their belief systems and their culture and how they do things, we still educate them on sort of being pliable as well to how our communities are moving, the direction that life, because life does not stay the same. Life changes, and we also need to be somewhat adaptable to the changes that occur in our communities. And when we educate the parents, obviously, then it becomes easier for the girls to have a buy-in. I always get surprised that my 2 girls also, I've bought cups for them, but they just can't get their heads around using a cup. At least the 17-year-old has started thinking about it, warming up to the idea, but as much as I've educated them, they just, I don't know what it is that feels weird for them. I think it's all the external information that they've received, other than what they've received from me, the other education they received from school, and the connotation that it, you know, brings with, and how you put it in. For example, I think for them maybe is a bit of an issue, and other girls in general. So yeah, I think we have a long road ahead of us, but certainly, you know, we break it one girl at a time in terms of getting our breakthroughs. Educating one girl at a time about the advantages. I know there's girls who are into sport who love, you know, the cups because they're so practical, because they can wear them for longer. And there's even the menstrual discs now, and for me, that is just one of the best menstrual products that there is, because it's so easy to put in, and you know, it's so practical. You even forget that you're on your period. So it makes the whole period journey so easy for girls. So I think it's educating our communities while we also walk with them in terms of where they are with acceptability of the menstrual cup. But yes, I think it's definitely the way to go.
Thank you for that insight. Philani, I saw that your hand went up before Dr. Sibu was speaking or while she was speaking. Do you still have anything to say or add on?
I guess we've had this conversation before, with kind of the types of product, and I think, you know, as Menstruation Foundation, we offer a huge range, between cups, pads, reusable pads, and we just fortunate that, you know, when we started this journey, it was like, guys, we want to do this, you know, we've got to have an impact. It was only later we realized actually the people that should be at the helm, as in the directors of the organization, in terms of from a board level, it should be women. And so the board is just made up of women, because they will give us the best way. We just execute in that sense. So we found that just from our point, the so firstly, we get our board members to actually try the products before we even send them out there. I know one of our board members is Babala Naja, who's the female Springboks captain. Is currently playing for the Harlequins in the UK right now. She's generally our biggest number one user because she's extreme on the field. So she would be, you know, putting up whatever pad that we probably introducing, or if it's a reusable pad, or if it's like the actual cup, and then we get feedback from them as to what works perfectly, what works great, what is not too great. I mean, I remember my wife trying a reusable pad. She says to me, it's the most uncomfortable, squeaky thing ever while you're using it. And what's worse is that the lady, which is a great initiative, I might add, but the lady says to me that issues these out. You know, you don't need hot running water. You actually don't even need to use soap. But when my wife used it, we actually had to flood the sink with water to soak it and use soap. So sometimes, you know, these things are great, and we must acknowledge why, I guess, we want them to exist, because we want to create sustainability. But there's just also a human dignity to this. I mean, I've heard so many times women want to cringe at actually just washing their own blood, which is notable. I mean, not everyone deals well with blood, and also in these communities that we're working in, to have a reusable pad on the washing line is something else. It's you know, I grew up in a place where I was told that as a guy, I should never take off women's underwear on the line. So, you know, you can only imagine as far as a reusable pad, which obviously has changed over the years, and also that blunt fly having a wife. um, but yeah, we do test these things out. We do. I mean, we still have so many cups, because even my girls at Old Graceland, or 20 of them, not even one a year later has tried it, because I mean, we've brought in the people for teaching. We've brought in even our board members to say she's tried it. But the only downside when she tried it, she needed to get into the shower to take it out because it possibly is full. So I think for me, one thing that helped us as an organization is there is so many products that are ideal, but they are ideal with us that are privileged. And that's okay. I really think we must be okay with it while we continue to teach about these other alternatives. But one of the key parts that actually no one has any shame about, no one has in any community. I don't think any community has ever disregarded an actual pad. And so instead of us trying to push, for example, the and spending money as well on the other products, would rather get a bigger reach through the actual pad because actually that's what's being used while we continue to teach. And I don't think there's anything we can do beyond just teaching until people kind of, maybe the next generation, that's all they know, maybe is the cups or is the reusable. But yeah, in our background in our work, tampons, it's probably only white schools that ask us for those. And then cups, like I said, we've got like almost 20,000 of them, and no one wants to use them. And so we have to kind of relook at where because there's always a community that will utilize the cup. So, for example, like I said, like Weinberg High, which is predominantly white school, we do send them out to them, and they accept them and they use them. But because the bigger population that we are trying to serve is predominantly Black and in townships and in rural areas, it's too intimidating. Those are the words that they use. It's too intimidating. No matter how much you've taught them how to fold the tampon, it's still big and it's still too big for their head to kind of wrap around.
Thank you for your insights, Philani. I guess it goes to the expression of that each to their own. I think what's important for us to filter and see which products are compatible with which environments is for us to do research first in that particular community, because there are some girls that are saying no, then there are some girls that are saying maybe, and there are some girls that are saying yes. So at least if we do have some girls that are saying yes, we can cater for them, and we are trying or in the path of, minimizing period poverty. So at least we know that in that particular community, we won't have to go back and keep on donating for the next 1 or 2 years, because we know that they're secured with menstrual cup. But with the communities that are saying no or are saying maybe that's where then the dispensers can come in, and we can just have the sanitary pads that will sustain them for a year long. With that being said, we are about to wrap up. But before we wrap up, I would just love to know if anybody just has any ideas or suggestions on how we can move forward as menstrual health advocates in South Africa and beyond our borders.
Yes, I do. So I think it's important, and I was trying to say this earlier, that we understand that this is not any one person, one organization's responsibility. This is an issue that we all have a responsibility to address. So collaboration is key here. And I love that I can even connect transnationally and work with organizations overseas, because we all have a responsibility to our girls and women. And so I think it's important to understand which space we are in and what value we can bring to the menstrual equity movement, and continue to have conversations like this and have spaces where we can understand how menstrual equity affects these different areas right? These different areas of a girl's life. While I'm working in the realm of incarceration, there are people who are working to not just address the issue of supply, but addressing the issue of having proper sanitation of products. So this is such a nuanced issue that we all have to work together to bring our strengths to the table to really address this. So I feel that I'm very proficient in being able to utilize resources for developing policy, for writing policy, for developing the research that's necessary to present to legislators and those who are in power. And we've been very successful here in the state of Ohio with using research as the foundation for getting funding, and for allowing women's voices to be the center of how we get things done. So prioritizing those who are affected by this and collaborating with different organizations who have the resources, I think creates such a powerful statement. And bringing that to those who are in charge and putting women in a position to be in charge are all ways that I think that I'm working to address this. And like I said, kind of in tandem, we're working with smaller organizations who are supplying the products while we're trying to work on the long-term goal of achieving policy and legislation. So I think that collaboration, prioritizing the women, collecting stories, collecting that research and formulating it in a way that is future oriented towards creating policy is one of the, I think, best ways that I have been able to be successful in addressing menstrual inequities in my context. And so that was something that I just wanted to say, is that being able to collaborate with all of you and being able to talk about my experiences and allowing the women who have been affected by this to shine in the middle of it, I think is one of the ways that we can really start to move forward. I'm not sure, have any of you brought any of the girls to platforms like this? Because I think it would have been nice to have some of the girls who are affected by this potentially join these kind of conversations. And so I think moving forward, just collaborating and centering the girls, and all of this can be utilized in a way where we're collecting data. So like I've been kind of writing things down from just the things that you all have been saying, and it's all working towards the data, and it's all working towards this effort of addressing this issue at a policy and higher level. So that was the last thing that I wanted to state.
Please may you also just share, Kayelin, how people can support you. I know that we are in a different country, but maybe there is some support that you would appreciate from us. So how do people get in touch with you, and how do they support you? And please may all the other panelists, once you share your closing statement at the end, just share how you would like the community to support you and how they can get hold of you. And please may everybody have their cameras on.
I think the biggest way that I can be supported is to continue to invite me to conversations like this, because it is my goal to address menstrual equity and achieve menstrual justice for girls everywhere, all over the globe. And so inviting me to platforms like this where I get to hear how period poverty is being perpetuated in different contexts is really important for me to know, because I want you all to know that I'm sharing all of your stories. Every time I talk about this, I'm also mentioning that this is not just an issue in the United States, this is an issue globally. So being able to hear you all just really strengthens the argument that no matter what, if you're a woman, you could potentially experience this. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. And so I think that the best way for people to get in touch with me is to send me an email. It's Tiggs, like my last name, TIGGS .4, the number 4 at hotmail.com. So that's tiggs.4@hotmail.com. If you have questions, want to learn more about my work, please just send me an email and I will get back with you. Thank you.
Just a closing statement on my side, especially with today being an Ubuntu project, Ubuntu Festival, Menstrual Health Festival. So it's just to close off with I don't think I'll be able to quote it word for word, but it's a saying or a quote by Audre, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, Audre Lorde. It's AUDERE. That's the name, and surname LORDE, where she says, I'm not free while another woman is unfree, even if her struggles or her shackles are different from mine. So I think that's what today, is all about, is extending a message in whatever way that, we have, been gifted, or in whatever platform that we have, to educate other people or to offer whatever resources that we have to other people to free their shackles. So it's just to say, let's continue the work that we do to help other women experience life in a better way, in a freer way compared to what they were before. And, we don't have to want it to be so big. It just starts with a small thing that you do day to day. And before you know it, it's reached out to so much more. So yes, my area of passion obviously is speaking and teaching people. So that's, where my availabilities are. And I can be reached. I've got social media platform where I educate women. It's on Instagram and Facebook. It's Dr. Sibu Belwana, which is my name, DRSIBULUBELWANA, OB_GYN. And like I said, I've recently also started another platform where I communicate with women at different stages. It's softlanding_woman. So just dealing with the different stages in a woman's life, because we go through different stages where, whichever stage that we get to, we may find that it's a bit of a bump. So it's just to help that stage, at whatever stage it is, for the woman to just land softly, which is about being intentional about whichever stage you are at that point. So yeah, those are the platforms that I'm interacting with, that you can find me at. Otherwise, thank you so much. It's been great being a part of this panel, and I've also learned so much and value so many things that other people are doing, and it's been an eye-opener on so many levels. Thank you.
So I think for me, I'd like to take off on Kayelin's words, because we have a saying at the office to say stronger together. I think the work that we've done between the Menstruation Foundation and All of Graceland just together has been much bigger than what we would have done alone as All Graceland, and what Menstruation Foundation would have done alone. And so I'm more than happy that all I heard from everything here, that we have the same problems throughout, whether it's in the UK, whether it's Nigeria, whether it's in the US. The problems are the same. It's just how do we just all of us work together around making sure that we have the same we have the same goal executed. You look at as I was saying earlier, like research and things like that, and the things that we want to change take a lot of money. And I'm sure foundations are more happy to look at more than one organization collaborating versus one NPO, working on their own, to give them the money for us to do the research. Because imagine doing research in the US and in South Africa, and finding policy change for the better. So I really believe in the collaboration. Now that I guess I've met the people on this panel, I don't expect it to be the last time we engage. I don't expect it to be the last time we have conversations around this. And just offer support for each other. And it can be in many ways. Sometimes it's giving you data from South Africa, to the US. And that also sheds light that this problem is much bigger to whoever you are dealing with. So I am for collaboration. May we continue these conversations. May we continue to not just have them, but to execute certain things. Because then that's another thing that generally what happens with NPOs when they come together. We have all these conferences but there must be some sort of execution that needs to happen from a practical level to say these are the things that we've changed in the walks that we've walked. So I'm very much happy to meet everyone on this panel, and so how you can get a hold of us, we've got our website, which is the Menstruation Foundation. You should pop up on Google. Otherwise, you can also email me on Philani, PHILANI .Zama, at graceland.org.za. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you to Sarah for allowing us to share our experiences, our expertise, and just our knowledge on the menstrual health journey. We hope that whoever is going to be watching this recording will learn a lot and will be motivated to support us in whichever form that they can support us. Maybe for us as Ubuntu NPO, you can reach us on social media. All our handles are the same. It's @_Ubuntu NPO. Our email address is ubuntunpo@outlook.com. And yeah, we're keen to continue with these conversations and collaborate with everybody. We believe that umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu, and we do believe that there is power in collaboration. So thank you so much, guys. It really means a lot to me, and I'm sure to Sarah.
Yes, thank you so much. On behalf of the Ubuntu Festival team, I just want to say a huge thank you. This conversation has been so inspiring, and just your incredible wisdom and knowledge that you bring from all your different backgrounds. We really have a lot to learn and a lot to be working together on in terms of policy and education that is central to the kind of forward movement of menstrual health and menstrual awareness. So huge thank you to all of you. And to everybody watching the recording and watching the session, please reach out to all these incredible individuals to stay connected and support their work. Thank you very much. If I could ask all the panelists to just open up your cameras for a moment so that we can take a group picture, and I'll stop the recording as well.